If you are not making someone else's life better, then you're wasting your time. You know, like your life will become better by making other lives better. There's a redemptive power that making a choice has, you know, rather than feeling like you're at effect to all the things that are happening. Make a choice. Right? You just decide what it's going to be, who you're going to be, how you're going to do it. Just decide. And then from that point, the universe is going to get out your way. It's like, it's water. It wants to move and go around stuff, you know.
In my life and in my experience, there's no such thing as a bad experience. Right? There's experiences you don't like.
And they hurt.
Right? But to define something as a bad experience for me has not been true. Everything that's ever happened to me in my life that at the time was deeply traumatic and debilitating. You know, there's been only 2 times in my life when I contemplated suicide. You know, and the once was when my mother and father separated, when my parents broke up, and I was 12. But even out of that, as I look back on that, the pain of that experience cultivated devotion in my life to my family. It woke me up in a way that forced me to try to connect with my children. So the negative experiences or the things that were awful at the time, there's always the other side of the coin. And in my experience, I've cultivated only positive things out of the most negative experiences. My father's death and the 6 weeks up to my father's death was probably the most formative time in my life. And as painful as it was and as difficult it was and all the stuff that came up, it was a powerful, formative, positive experience in my life.
Tell us a bit about that, if you don't mind, about why you felt it was formative. And
I got a gift that some people don't get, and it was that the doctors told us he had 6 weeks to live, right? So, and then he lived for 4 months, right? So I got a warning. So most people don't get a warning. You just get the call one day and you just didn't get a chance. And when I found out that he was dying, so I sat with him and we talked about everything. So I said everything that I wanted to say, and we got to those 6 weeks. We were clear. But then he lived for another 3 months. So what happened was every meeting, every time I saw him, I was flying back to LA, but every time I saw him was like, oh, thank God.
yeah.
And then every time we said goodbye, we made sure we said a good, thorough, full goodbye, because we knew at any moment it could actually be the last goodbye, right? But the lesson was, it's always like that. When we say goodbye, we can't know if this is the last time. You should never greet someone casually or say goodbye to someone casually. And that lesson came from that experience. Every moment was so rich. Every time we saw each other, it was, and every time we said goodbye, we made sure it was a good, thorough, full goodbye. That's how you're supposed to live every day anyway. Every time you leave your house could be the last time. You're supposed to be in the richness of your hellos and goodbyes and thank yous. So I learned that lesson with my father. And then when he passed, it was easy. We were finished. Just the lesson of that kind of presence and that kind of attention and that kind of recognition that tomorrow's not promised.
I want to represent possibilities. I want to represent the idea that you really can make what you want. One of my favorite books is The Alchemist, Paulo Coelho. And I just believe that. I believe that I can create whatever I want to create.
You know, to be in a position to, at that age, to start tasting your dreams. Yeah, it's double-edged. It was a double-edged sword at that time. But I got my first $1,000 at 17 years old, wow. And they handed me 10 $100 bills for rapping, and it was crazy, and I knew that I was never ever going to do anything that would stop somebody from handing me 10 $100 bills. It was helpful for me in the sense that it immediately curbed my vices. Like I was 22 years old before I took a drink. I've never smoked weed. I haven't done drugs. I so enjoyed getting $1,000 that it knocked out, everything other than. When we move through the world, you are confronting defiled and degraded minds. It's the way God designed this place. You are going to come across people that have made poisonous conclusions and false beliefs, and they've got insane narratives running through their minds. And as you walk through the street, you're coming in contact with that all day long. The problem isn't completely in the system. The problem is in the hearts and minds of people. It demands that our attention begin on our hearts and minds. Do not elect people that don't have God and love in their hearts. Don't succumb to lovelessness no matter how much evil you face, because you poison yourself and you poison your own community when you succumb to lovelessness.
The first step before anybody else in the world believes it is you have to believe it. Confucius said, he who says he can and he who says he can't are both usually right. Being realistic is the most commonly traveled road to mediocrity. Why would you be realistic? What's the point of being realistic? I'm going to do it. It's done. It's already done. The second I decide it's done, it's already done. So now we just got to wait for y'all to see.
It's unrealistic to walk in a room and flip a switch and lights come on. That's unrealistic. Fortunately, Edison didn't think so. It's unrealistic to think you're going to bend a piece of metal and fly people over an ocean in that metal. That's unrealistic. But fortunately, the Wright brothers and others didn't believe that, and it just seems like such a ridiculous idea to me to embrace the idea that it's not going to happen and that's not real. Our thoughts, our feelings, our dreams, our ideas are physical in the universe. That if we dream something, if we picture something, if we commit ourselves to it, that is a physical thrust towards realization that we can put into the universe. That the universe is not a thing that's going to push us around. That the world and people and situations are not something that are going to push us around. That we are going to bend the universe and command and demand that the universe become what we want it to be.
For me, when I look at Hollywood, Hollywood is an interesting microcosm of the world. It's like the reality is any human being that has a power position, they're going to look out for themselves. People are fearful and people are desirous of things for themselves. So when people have a power base, like you take care of yourself and you take care of your own, so the question becomes, how can we share? right? And it's always going to be difficult for somebody when sharing means they have to have less. For you, if sharing means you're going to get more, sharing's a good thing. But when you asking somebody to share and you know they're going to have less, that's difficult. You got to expect there's going to be, you're trying to appeal to people's deeper human kindness and their altruism. You see it with kids all the time. Share with your friends. Like, well, if you snatching it from them, telling them to share with their friends, that's not going to go well, right? So for me, Jada and I debate all the time on the way that you have to open people up to sharing things that they've either acquired gracefully or stolen. Either way they get them, they consider them theirs.
For my career, my whole approach to building an image and to building something that young black kids and kids around the world could aspire to, one of the major aspects of that is I was strictly only creating images that were of the highest intelligence, the highest power. I needed to be as high and fly as high as I could possibly fly. And really all kids could see that type of flying as not something that only white movie stars could do.
One of the beautiful parts of social media that I think is a beautiful evolutionary thing is that social media demands authenticity, right? So social media pushes you more and more into having to reveal what's true.
Yeah,
and because if you don't, TMZ is going to, right?
That's a fact.
So it's it's a beautiful thing. And I'm actually enjoying the push, right? The eyes and ears of the world are starting to demand more and more authenticity, where you got to say what's true for you and live or die by what that is. So I'm enjoying the social demand for authenticity.